5 political parties in Rivers State say they have uncovered a plot by INEC and the Rivers State government to compromise the governorship election. The parties making the allegations are the All Progressives Congress, the National Rescue Movement, the Action Alliance, Accord Party, and African Democratic Congress. However, the spokesperson of the PDP Campaign Council in Rivers State has denied the allegation. He says Governor Wike has always preached peace.
We are reliably informed of the recent plot by the governor of the state to use the instrumentality of the LGA secretariats by the INEC as collation centers to rig and manipulate the results of the coming election. We are also informed that Governor Wike has instructed all LGA executive chairmen to carry out what he calls Operation No Mercy on every other party agent, being the chief security officer of the LGA, to ensure those agents representing their party's interests do not get access to the collation centers.
We have decided to come together to face this common enemy. And the common enemy is those people who have several, strategies of rigging, like the Governor Wike of Rivers State, who thinks that he can do and undo. We have come together to make sure we resist them this time vehemently.
And we are, taking the peaceful path. Does not mean that we don't know what to do. We have a right to protect the mandates of the people, and everyone should take note. Nobody has a monopoly of violence. We all want a peaceful, free and fair election. So it's important for the media, the police and everyone to take note.
All right, for a build-up to the governorship election, we're joined now by Arise Director of News and Politics Editor Sumner Sambo and Deputy Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies at the Bayes University right here in Abuja. Let me begin with you, Prof. With that last report there and accusations coming from the APC that INEC, is planning to work this election in favor of some other party. What do you make of that as we build up to this governorship election?
Well, thanks for having me. It's not surprising that we're having this kind of accusation, and of course, we'll probably expect some kind of counter-accusation by tomorrow. It's part of the process, but what we do expect is, what we do not want is for it to degenerate into some kind of violence. But again, the alarm that they are raising is also what we're examining. Because we have agencies that are supposed to do this. INEC is supposed to be the umpire, and it's being mentioned. It will be okay if they come out denying it. And of course, we also have the security agencies. It will also be all right if they beam their searchlight further on the specific points that the concerned aspirants or contestants have raised. And of course, we also expect some kind of clear-cut denial from those that are being accused, because any whatever is done to upturn or to circumvent due processes and procedures is definitely unwelcome in the kind of environment we're in. We do understand that the electioneering process can be draining, it can be emotional, and of course, contestants are easily die-hearted, wanting to win at all costs. But again, this is not supposed to be so, and that's why we're saying that all hands must be on deck to ensure that the concerns raised by the aspirants are dealt with. If not true, of course, it can be ignored, but if true, steps should be taken to forestall the machinations of the parties being accused. And the onus is also on the parties being accused, to rise to the occasion and, of course, create clear-cut, create clear explanations, denying that they are culpable or they are guilty in any way. So we're going to see this back and forth in the build-up to the election, being the second combination in the present election cycle. It's critical. The anxieties are there. We expect this kind of accusations, like I said, but of course, the important thing is for us to have a peaceful election at the end of the day.
Let me bring in Sumner here. Sambo, you see, this election has already been given a stretch, more like a lifeline, an extra week for a lot of preparations by these 31 states. Paint for us a picture of where we should be looking at, so to speak, the battleground of these states going into the governorship election on March 18.
Thank you, Suleiman. And the battleground states that you're talking about are some of those hot zones that we've been following through the past week at Arise News here. Of course, Lagos State is there, and then, of course, when you look at other states in the southern part of the country, you would want to focus on Enugu, where there's a lot of tension, especially within the Labour Party, the PDP, and of course, ABGA. And from there, you go to Ebonyi State, where there's a lot of expectation there, especially between PDP and the All Progressives Congress. And from there, you go to Abia, where there's a lot of, focus on what the PDP will be doing to retain the position there. And when you come to the north, the focus will actually be on states like Kano, where you have the NMPP and the APC battling it out there. And you come to Kaduna, where the PDP and the APC will be giving themselves a huge battle. And then, of course, Bauchi is another hot point where we're expecting some surprises here and there. And then, of course, Taraba, where we have the PDP and APC accusing themselves. In fact, the PDP just issued a statement not quite long saying that the APC misinterpreted the Supreme Court's judgment, and as a result of its own interpretation of the Supreme Court's recent judgment, the APC doesn't have a candidate in the governorship election. And from there, you take a look at places like Plateau, where surprisingly the Labour Party had made some strong showing during the presidential election. But we see that the APC and PDP are working very strong, despite the fact that the presidential candidate of the Labour Party had to go to Jos to strengthen, the capacity of the Labour Party's governorship candidate. A lot of pundits believe that the battle there is actually between the PDP and the APC because the local dynamics are different in this governorship election, but the Labour Party's candidate will have a strong showing. And then you go to areas like Sokoto, where it's a big battle between APC and PDP, the PDP being the incumbent government in power, but you see the likes of Wamako, Senator Wamako, who is leading the APC's charge there to see how the PDP can, be pushed out of power. And then Kebbi is another state to watch, where the PDP is likely going to give the APC, a huge fight for its money. And then, of course, we have other states that are still there, like Adamawa, where it's between the female governorship candidate of the PDP, and then, of course, the APC, and then, of course, the PDP's incumbent governor, Amadou Fintri. And, of course, when we talked about the South, I skipped River State, where we know that that's where the major showdown will be in the, southern hemisphere of the country.
Fantastic. And still on that note, Prof, this election, this governorship election, do you get a sense that, people as they go to the ballot will be voting for the parties or the individuals involved? Because some analysts are saying, look, this really is all about the individuals and not necessarily the parties. Do you agree with that?
I think, Ngozi, I think it's one of many things. What I see in recent times is that the Nigerian voter has become a lot more sophisticated. They've become much more discerning, irrespective of what looks like ordinary sheer enthusiasm and passion. You could see that deep within, they can separate the wheat from the chaff. And sometimes you see them going for the individual. Some other times you also see them going for the political party. But I do agree that largely, the point of focus will be the individuals, realizing that sometimes you find credible individuals, being hosted in parties that are probably controversial, or parties that have been jaded, parties that probably do not that have carried weight in the past, but they've not been able to deliver. And of course, we have seen individuals, strong individuals, being sponsored by some political parties that are relatively unknown, but emerging winners. We have seen it in places like in Nasarawa, and of course, there are good reasons for us to think that we may see more of it, but maybe in Akwa Ibom or in some other states around. So it just points to the fact that gradually the democratic culture is growing. The individuals are becoming much more conscious of their powers, their self, how self-involved they should be in the democratic process. And of course, it's just highlighting the fact that we're making progress at the level of content and character, even though there are still questions around the quality of the electionary process. So sophistication, no doubt.
Do you envisage protest votes?
Protest votes can come, and it can come at different levels. It might just be disagreement with ideological orientation of political parties, disagreement like we suspected in the case of Lagos, where a lot of people voted in protest, not necessarily because they didn't like one candidate, but maybe some choices, some peering, decision to peer on the grounds of some religion or ethnic consideration and all such things. It can come in different guises, but overall, it's a political process. It can be very fluid. It can be very, very difficult as well to be definitive. That's why at the end of the day, you find results becoming very, very interesting, because if you no matter how you want to look at it, oftentimes it comes out like a game with the bag of surprises that can come as a result.
Let's come back to you, Sumner, and let's see if we can narrow it down to two states. In this case, Edo State and Lagos State. Edo is not going into the governorship election, but the governor has moved, neck deep into the campaigns. More so, the former governor winning his senatorial seat. Paint for us a picture of what we may likely see in Edo State and Lagos State.
In Edo State, what we expect to see is a Labour Party performing very well in Edo South. If you had looked at the presidential election results, you would have seen that the southern part of Edo, the Edo South Senatorial District, seems to be a hotbed of agitations, and of course people wanting to free themselves from the shackles of the PDP and the APC, like they say, saying that these two parties have not represented them very well. If you look at Edo North, you see that the APC is still very strong there, and that's why someone like Adams Oshomole could actually win a senatorial position. And if you go to Edo Central, you see that, for example, the Esan people, they are still with the PDP. They are likely going to go with the PDP. So if you look at the state houses of assembly election results that will be coming out, it's going to be a mixture of three parties forming the membership of the House of Representatives. We are still going to see APC doing well in Edo North. We will see the PDP doing very well in Edo Central, and the Labour Party surprisingly is going to do well in Edo South because of the results that we have seen. You come to Lagos State, the party that has been in power, there has always had a very strong hold of the state legislature, talking about the APC, right from the days of the AD and then migrating to the AC and then the ACN and eventually coming to the APC. We've seen, the Lagos politics being held under the stranglehold of one political party. And then even when you see, PDP trying to make a little performance, it won't be so much as to threaten the majority of the House of Assembly there. But this time around, there's a likelihood that the Labour Party is going to win some state assembly seats in Lagos. And then, of course, PDP, a few. And then, of course, APC is still likely to dominate the State House of Assembly seats there. But the main battle is going to be between the APC and the Labour Party. And then, of course, at the governorship level, the battle is between the incumbent governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and, of course, Rodsvivo there, who is going to actually give the incumbent a good run for his money. And this is the sort of politics that we really want, because he's young, he's enthusiastic, lots of supporters, people who are independent-minded are backing him, and they are trying to see how they could actually, bring down the Tinubu political dynasty in Lagos there. But while it looks like a very huge battle for the Labour Party, nonetheless, you can see that the incumbent governor, Sanwo-Olu himself, has been waxing stronger. I mean, you could see Adedosunmo, the former PDP governorship candidate, coming with some of his members from the PDP to, provide support for him. And some PDP elders also providing support for him on the side, and then endorsement from some other political parties. But the governor should not get carried away by all of this, because we've seen endorsements coming and some governors or National Assembly members falling by the wayside. So he still has to continue to do his work very well. And then for Rodsvivo too, he should not just think that the support that the Labour Party got in the PDP, in the presidential election is enough to deliver him. He has to go to the streets, woo people, bring a lot of programs that can help to enlighten people as to what Labour Party is all about. Because if he keeps selling Peter Obi and not selling his own programs or that of the Labour Party, there's a tendency that he may lose a huge chunk of people who were obedient in the presidential election, but when it comes to governorship election, it's a different ball game.
A different ball game entirely. Prof, when you look at the quality and content of the campaign so far, especially if you narrow it down to places like Lagos, where it seems like the candidates are not about to take the electorate for granted in any way or form, in terms of, rating the quality of campaigning, how would you say that these candidates have sold themselves in a way that will determine how the voters, cast their ballot?
Well, I think overall the candidates coming even from the presidential contestants to the governorship, have really tried to play up issues. They've tried with manifestos. They've tried to focus on programs, talking about promises that they hold for the people, and of course looking at the problems of their states, problems of the country, and how they will deal with it. But sometimes it doesn't seem as if voters are swayed by the level of confidence displayed by individual contestants. It seems as if voters are swayed by some other factors that sometimes you may find it very difficult to place your hands on. Yes, they may listen, they may appreciate the fact that you are sophisticated with your manifesto, that you are on point, you are spot on, discussing the issues, but sometimes you also find them, deciding, in a way that makes it look as if they are completely detached from the preachments and promises and, assurances given by the contestants. So we can't really tell. But of course, democracy expects that you work from manifesto. You come around talking to people, hinging on programs, and assuring them of your can-do-ness, your ability to deliver, leveraging on your capacity, your pedigree, etc.
How difficult do you think it is for the incumbents, for example? How much of an incumbency factor will play out, whether you're talking about Lagos or your state, and a few other states, like Nasarawa, of course, where the governors want to come back?
It seems very obvious that from my recent experience that incumbents are becoming largely powerless. It's largely becoming something that is no longer a factor. If you look at it from the center election, the presidential election, where President Buhari lost in Katsina, Asiwaju lost in Lagos, of course, you're beginning to feel that the incumbency factor is beginning to weaken in our politics. And of course, what about a plateau where the DG of APC campaign lost, and so we can't really bank on that, because the election process has also become slightly sophisticated. That the kind of machines, the kind of things that incumbents used to deploy those days to manipulate the election, to circumvent processes, have been weakened, through the instrumentality of technology. And that's why we say slowly we're making progress. But even though the progress is not fast enough, but at least we're getting somewhere. Even though once more, we can still do better.
Let me bring in Sumner here as we cross home. Professor Adeniyi spoke about technology, and it reminds us of that word and phrase that was on the lips of every Nigerian, BVAS, and of course INEC and its portal. Paint for us a picture of how ready the electoral umpire is now that they got an extra time to prepare for this one.
The electoral umpire has been speaking about its readiness, and of course we've heard the usual rhetoric that they are prepared and all of that. But I think the good thing that we've heard from INEC is that they've apologized for some of the glitches, saying that they've put in place certain things to ensure that the results that will be posted after the elections will be in real time. That's where the major controversy started from. And then, of course, this time around, Nigerians should pay a lot of attention to INEC and its officials, the ad hoc officials, the logistics delivery, because if logistics don't get to the polling booths on time, that in itself, it's a process that's rigged against certain candidates. So there must be a lot of pressure on INEC to ensure that, there's an even delivery of logistics. Not that opposition strongholds may not witness swift delivery of logistics, and then you have the governing party areas or areas that they are likely to win having logistics delivery on time. Once that happens, the credibility of the election process is lost. And then one other areas that need to be focused on is INEC officials themselves. People must hold the state coalition officers to account. Ward coalition officers must be held to account. Polling unit officers must be held to account. People must know that this service that they are offering is not to politicians or to people in government. It is to the Nigerian people. And so they must discharge their service to the people honestly. If any electoral officer is being forced to declare results under duress, they should try their best to ensure that they do not do that. I mean, we could see the example that happened in Kano, and then, of course, I think Abia, and then, of course, there was another one in Imo, where electoral officials stood their ground and said they will not do anything that will tamper with the results. These are the kind of citizens that we're looking at. Yes, sometimes, it comes at the risk of them being harmed. So we will call on the security services. I mean, that's why we have the secret police, the DSS, all around. They should provide protection for all these electoral officials so that they do not kowtow to even opposition members. Sometimes it will surprise you to know that even members of the opposition would want to force, some of the electoral officials to tamper with campaign electoral results. So we must make sure that INEC officials and then the officials that are brought in from outside to support INEC do not compromise the elections.
Yes, indeed. Well, INEC says it has Plan B in place and is reassuring Nigerians that with the governorship election, it's going to be on top of its game. Thank you, both of you, gentlemen. Deputy Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Bayes University, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, and of course, Arise News, Sumner Sambo, Politics Editor and Director of News. Thank you very much.